Simulators are now an essential weapon in the armoury of Formula One teams, and their use is rapidly expanding in other categories too. Whereas once access to top-level specifications was only affordable for the big-budget Grand Prix squads and manufacturers, technology and price have moved on immeasurably. Now British-based company Dynisma, which recently led the project to build Ferrari's brand new simulator, have created an F1 spec sim that is commercially available. Where the DMG1 stands out though, is not that it's a turnkey solution. Instead, is that it's reckoned to be the most realistic simulator, or motion generator as the company prefers to call it, you can buy. In fact, Dynisma say it's the second most realistic in the world, only behind the bespoke one they built for Ferrari at Maranello. Such realism comes not because its graphics are better, or the motion generators deliver greater simulated G-forces. Instead, it's all down to what's known as latency, the speed by which information of what the car is doing can be fed back to the driver for him to react. Here, Dynisma's founder and CEO Ash Warne tells us more. Is it fair to call this the most realistic simulator that is commercially available right now?
This simulator, DMG1, is the most realistic, the most immersive, the most coherent and accurate simulator that's available. Our motion generator technology is able to put through more information and provide that to the driver more quickly than any other simulator is able to. Our technology has the lowest latency of any simulator available, and this is critically important, especially in motorsport, where the driver is trying to drive the car on the limit of grip, and if the back end steps out, the driver needs to be able to respond immediately, and they can do this no faster than when provided with feedback by our simulator. It's a real holistic, immersive experience though. All of the sensors that the driver has are being cued by our simulator, but when it comes to that latency, it's what the driver is able to drive the car in a more accurate fashion because of that. So for example, in other simulators where the latency is higher, it may be that they have to dial understeer into the vehicle model just so that the driver can get round a lap. Whereas in our simulator, they can put a perfectly correlated vehicle model into the simulator, and it can be really hard to drive it on the limit of grip, on the edge of stability, but because they're getting that super quick feedback from the motion platform, they're able to do that in a way that they can't in any other simulator.
Of course, there was no better way of checking out the claims than getting a go myself. Having been strapped in and the steering wheel put in place, I got to experience Spa-Francorchamps and Barcelona's F1 circuit in a variety of different cars. And I can tell you the immersion is something else. The combination of the visual experience, the feedback of every bump, and the way the steering wheel needs to be held tight to cope with the forces through the corners makes it super intense. How the car responds is impressive. Wheel spin out of slow speed corners, like the source at Spa, is detected super fast so it can be corrected. And the feeling of locking up the front wheels or smashing over the curbs comes at you instantly. And despite all that's been said over the years about the speed and brutality of driving an F1 car, nothing can quite explain in words how time blurs when you're on the edge. The milliseconds your brain uses to judge how close to the apex you got it when you turned in has already taken too long. Where you thought you were is no longer where you are. That means 1 second you're happily aiming for an apex, and the next, the snatch of oversteer or a slightly late turn-in means you suddenly find yourself heading off across the curbs and towards the barriers. But nothing felt fake or unnecessarily exaggerated, and after a short session, my frazzled brain and sweat said everything about how real the experience was, and even more so the next day, when I noticed a few bruises where I'd knocked the side of the cockpit. Okay, I think we're done. Oh, I'm hot. That's hard work.
Wow, you've certainly worked up a sweat there.
Yes, it's interesting because there's never a time at home you think this game's too quick for me. Whereas on don't come off like this. Those corners, your brain has to think a corner ahead.
Yeah.
And then your body's responding to what's going on now, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
I wouldn't have known I was in a motion
No.
simulator, which probably means it's doing this job, isn't it?
Exactly, because things feel natural, they feel the way it should feel. And actually, when you see the video back and you realise how much you're moving, you don't realise because it is totally sort of a natural feeling. Genuinely, you drove really, really well. You did a 21, that was impressive. Then you did a 20, then you did 19, and then you did the 19.0. Well done. I mean, genuinely, that was a really quick lap time. For literally 20 minutes or whatever it was at Barcelona.
Yeah.
So
that's good. Thank you. The DMG1 can be ordered for between £2 to £3 million, depending on the package individuals or teams are after. And while it's not pocket change, the value its realism brings in helping drive forward engineering progress could be critical in making the difference between winning and losing, and that's something you cannot put a price on.
It's the sum of many years of thought, development, optimization, and then some real key leaps over the other existing technology, real breakthroughs in how you provide motion in a way that the human is expecting it, without a lot of the miscues that you get in other simulator technology. We've eliminated a lot of the creaks, the bangs, the dither, the noise that you get in other simulators, and time and again people who drive this, they talk about how realistic it is and how much of a huge step forward in terms of realism it is compared to other simulator technologies.